to the inaugural episode of Read All About It. I'm Reed. Today I'm going to talk to you guys about NRL Hunter. What is it? What's the gear that I choose to use and why? And then I'm also going to give you a few tips and tricks if you do ultimately decide to jump in and go to a match and shoot it, how to break down a stage, my kind of mental game as far as how I approach a stage. And hopefully that gives you a little bit of insight, gets you excited about giving it a try, because NRL Hunter for me has quickly become one of the favorite disciplines that I compete in, and I've tried a lot of different ones. But I really like the NRL Hunter. So what is NRL Hunter? It's a long-range rifle competition based around hunting scenarios. So what does that mean? You don't know where your targets are or the distance to them. So within the time limit of 4 minutes that you have for a stage, you have to find, range, and engage all 4 of your targets. That might be 4 separate targets. It might be 2 different targets from 2 different positions. It might be 1 target from 4 different positions. All that stuff is up to the match director, but it's not really designed for your really heavy, light recoiling rifles that we see in PRS. I shoot PRS as well, and I've got custom rifles built separately for that task, and those tools work great for that, but I wouldn't ever take them on a antelope hunt or a mule deer or elk hunt, because the rifle weighs 20 to 25 pounds. I'm not going to want to lug that on my back all day, every day, searching for the game. So the rules are set for the competition so that we're using gear that you would likely use on a hunt. So there are, the divisions of NRL Hunter. You have Skills Division, which is a reduced entry fee geared towards the newer shooter or new competitor to the NRL Hunter Series who has a rifle that's capable of shooting long range, but maybe doesn't want to invest money into something that's light enough weight or heavy enough recoiling to make power factor in open or any of those criteria. It's a good way for somebody to get out, try the sport without investing in new gear that you may or may not already have. So you can use any rifle that you want that's capable of safely shooting the distances that we're trying to shoot, in any weight and any caliber. And like I said, it's a reduced entry fee. You do not walk the prize table, so that's part of the reason why you get the reduced entry fee. And then you have Open Heavy, which is any rifle in any configuration of a caliber that meets power factor. Power factor is listed in the rules. You can go and check that out. And it's a multiple of your bullet weight times your muzzle velocity, and that'll give you your power factor. And you have to be above that threshold within your rifle to shoot within that division. Then you have a 16-pound weight restriction. You can do anything to your rifle. You can add anything to your rifle. Just when you weigh in at the beginning, anything you're going to use that's going to be fixed to the rifle has to be on it, and it has to weigh under 16 pounds. Then you have Open Light. It's all the same things as Open Heavy, except your new weight restriction, as light would entail, is lighter, and that's set at 12 pounds. So, optic, bipod, stock, chassis, whatever you choose, barrel, all of that stuff has to come in under 12 pounds in Open Light. And then you have Factory. Factory is the division that I've chosen to shoot. And I wanted to compete in Factory because I was going to go out and purchase a new rifle for this sport, but I also didn't want to invest the money into a fully custom built rifle, because I wanted something that I was going to potentially take out west on, you know, an elk hunt or mule deer or antelope or things that I want to do in the relatively near future. I wanted a rifle capable for that without breaking the bank. What I settled on is the Tikka T3X in 6.5 PRC. So that's what we have here in this front rifle. And then the rifle that my daughter is going to be shooting when she joins me this year in NRL Hunter Series is a Tikka T3X in 243 Winchester. So the nuances of factory division, you have to have a factory rifle, as the name would entail, and it has to be in its factory configuration. Okay, so that means we can't swap out triggers, we can't swap out springs within the triggers. We can't change our bottom metal to accept a, you know, AICS pattern magazine. We can't, you know, drill holes in the stocks to add cheek risers or you know, Arca rails or things like that. If your muzzle's not threaded already, you can't have it threaded and add muzzle devices. Those types of things are the rules of factory division. And again, that weight limit there is 12 pounds as well. So you're going to be buying a factory rifle from a manufacturer that's listed in the rule book. Not all makes and models of factory rifles are approved for NRL Hunter. You have to go in that rule book and choose a manufacturer from the approved list and buy a SKU that meets the criteria of factory division. Last year there was a power factor requirement for factory. This year there is not. There is a caliber restriction on factory, which is 6mm or larger, and cartridge overall length of 2.70 or larger. So the 243, the SAMI spec, is 2.71 inches overall length, and it meets that bullet diameter of 6mm. So that's why I set my daughter up in this rifle. I think it'll be relatively lightweight, easy to maneuver for her, light recoiling even without a muzzle device. All those things should allow her to have a good time and put some rounds on target and have some success. So her rifle is going to be relatively basic. I'm going to add an Arca rail. You know, like I said before, you can't drill and tap the stock to add accessories, but if you already have mounting points and you can securely attach aftermarket Arca rail, you're allowed to do so. So one nice thing about the Tikkas is you have two threaded holes. You have this hole here capped with a Torx screw, and then you have your sling swivel stud that you can remove and screw into there. So on mine, I have the Mountain Tactical Arca plate on the bottom. I chose that one because it was lightweight. It fit the criteria that I was looking for, not only for competition, but it would work well for hunting scenarios as well. With my daughters, I'm just going to add the Area 419 full-length Arca rail that I have on my PRS rifle. You know, it's going to be long, but it should do the trick, and I don't have to invest in a separate rail when I'm borrowing this gun from a family member to have her shoot. We'll share our bipod because we'll both be running Arca. Right now I just have a Harris bipod on here that attaches to the swing swivel stud, but we'll just swap the Atlas bipod back and forth between the two rifles as needed during the competition. Yeah, I've got it on a Arca plate. Should be real easy to slide on and off. And then the rifle up front here, like I said, it's a Tikka T3X in 6.5 PRC. It's the light rough tech version. So it comes threaded with a muzzle brake and a thread protector. So per the rules, since I have both of those, I can use whatever muzzle device I want. I have the APA Little Bastard on here. And then Mountain Tactical Arca Rail, like I mentioned, Atlas Bipod. I have a 20 MOA rail here from Mountain Tactical. I'll be adding that to my daughter's rifle as well, because right now I have a 0 MOA rings on here, which I was on the rifle from the family member that I borrowed it from, and I put my scope in here. And after bore sighting it, I spun the turret up to see how much elevation I had left, and I only had about 9 mils of elevation adjustment left, and I knew that wasn't going to be enough for a 243 win for the ranges that we're potentially going to be shooting. And I didn't want my daughter to have to think about dialing and holding over or anything like that. So we're just going to add a Mountain Tactical 20 MOA rail to it, and that'll give us enough scope elevation adjustment to be able to successfully shoot these matches. Her rifle is going to be paired with the Vortex Viper PST Gen 2 5 to 25 by 50. It's a great scope. Not really designed around hunting, because you've got non-locking exposed elevation and windage turrets. So if you're taking that on a hunt, the likelihood that you could hit your turrets and adjust them is probably pretty high. So you're probably going to want something with a capped windage turret or locking turrets if you're going to take it on a hunt. So PST is designed more around tactical shooting, and it works great in the PRS world. Probably wouldn't be a scope I'd choose for an actual hunting trip. My optic is the Razor HD LHT 3 to 15 by 50. It is a second focal plane optic with capped windage turret, locking elevation turret. The second focal plane is kind of a hindrance for this game. It's probably not an issue when it comes to actually hunting, but within this game, if I'm not on max power, my windage holds and elevation holds, if I'm using the subtensions built into the reticle, are not going to be accurate. For me, I've gotten pretty good at natural point of aim, pointing my rifle in the direction of my target, getting down into the optic, and my target being within my field of view. Even on 15 power, I seem to be all right at that. If needed, I can zoom out, find that target, zoom back in, and make that shot. It's not really a super hindrance, but it's just one thing to consider. If I was buying a new optic, I already had this optic. If I was buying a new one specifically for hunting to double duty on NRL Hunter, I'd probably choose something like the Razor HD LHT 4.5 to 22, which is a first focal plane scope. But this, I already had it. This hasn't really held me back, I don't think. I think I've got enough weight. If I wanted to, I could take my Razor HD Gen 2 and slap that on there. But that's a really heavy scope. It's not something I'd probably take with hunting. And I, try to be in the spirit of things and use what I'd use hunting. Like I said, we've got to use factory bottom metals. So within a stage, you could have up to 8 shots. A minimum of 4 shots if you found all your targets and you're engaging all the targets. So my 6.5 PRC has 4-round magazines. I can get 5-round magazines for 308 base cartridge for Annika's gun. So what does that mean? It means we have to potentially do a mag change on every stage, or in my case, and Anika's, I've added these cheap Allen cheek pads with pouches that have cartridge loops on the side. So, you know, if I need to make one more shot or two more shots, I'll just come to the loop, grab a cartridge, throw it in the open bolt, run that bolt home, take that shot without taking the time to do a full mag change. But, you know, if I'm going to need potentially 4 more rounds, I'm going to do that mag change, and you know, so I don't have to keep reaching back to the loops. So that's my way of around that problem. And then with the cheek riser or cheek pads, it also gives us a little bit better cheek weld with the stock because these are non-adjustable stocks. We can't drill and tap them for a cheek riser that's, you know, permanently affixed. Within the rules, you know, we can Velcro these on and we're just fine. So I've added a little pool noodle as well underneath there with some duct tape on it to, you know, get that purchase just a little bit higher, get that comb height exactly where we need it to fit us so that we can have good fundamentals and shoot a good match that way. I think that's about all I need to cover on the rifles for factory division. Again, look at the rules, choose something that you're going to like and use. If you've got, you know, a custom rifle that you want to kit out for NRL Hunter, by all means do so. Shoot one of those open classes. If you're looking to get into, you know, a little bit into the competition, a little bit more budget friendly, you know, look at the factory options. There's a lot of different rifles. You know, heck, even a Ruger American and a 6.5 Creedmoor can shoot this division just fine in 243 Winchester, so long as it's like a 1-in-8 twist and you can stabilize a little bit heavier bullet, go for it. You know, get out, come shoot it. It's a ton of fun. But that's my rifle setups for factory division. I'm going to get my pack and show you kind of how I situate my pack, the gear that I bring along with me, and then we'll kind of go over that. So bear with me here and I'll get that set up. Alright, so here's my pack and how I kind of configure it for a match. I personally think the exterior of your pack is what you should spend the most time thinking about, how you're going to lay that out, because that's the stuff that you want really easy access to, the stuff that you're likely going to use on most stages. You want that readily accessible. You don't want to have to go into the pack to get that stuff out because you are limited on time, and if you're just wasting time, you know, getting stuff out of your pack, you're not going to have a ton of success. You need to minimize that amount of, or that type of stuff, so that you can either be in your binoculars ranging, finding targets, or on your rifle shooting and engaging them. Those are all, you know, productive tasks, you know, but part of the task is getting that stuff out and getting it deployed so that you can utilize it. So I've got my pack packed up here, how I would come to the range. Not necessarily how it would be set up for the stage. I just wanted to illustrate the type of stuff that I bring with me first, and then we'll kind of talk about the gear and how I use it. So the pack itself is an Eberly stock Renegade. I got this brand new last year. I really like the pack. I think it's suited really well for NRL Hunter. It's not a giant pack by any means, but it's big enough, as you can see, to hold all my stuff. My daughter and I are going to share a lot of gear, so I don't have to bring 2 of everything, but it does have enough space to fit everything that I think you need, plus a little bit more. So I'm going to open it up here, show you what I bring, and then we'll talk about the gear that I typically use on a stage and how I utilize my pack for the actual stage. So the Renegade has a top lid compartment and then pretty much a main compartment. Those are your 2 things that have the most space and you're going to probably use the most frequently. Within the top lid compartment, the things that I bring to a match, so I have a phone armband. This one can rotate so I can orient my phone in whatever way, and I can wear my phone on my arm. The reason for that is if my binoculars go down and I need to get precise dope on a really far target or something that's not on my cheat sheet, my dope card that has my ranges and stuff, I can go into my phone really quick and do that if needed. It is also something that I use every stage because I use that to run my timer. I highly recommend running a timer because you think 4 minutes is a long time when you're just dry firing or something in your basement, but when you get on the actual clock and you're actually doing it, that time really goes by really fast, and you might not have a perception of how much time you have left. I've seen plenty of people time out looking for targets. They've found 3, looking for that last target, and the timer goes off and they spent 2 minutes looking for that last target rather than shooting the 3 that they found, and they get a 0 rather than a 6 or something. So I prefer to run my phone. You can run a stopwatch, wristwatch. You can run a kitchen timer on whatever you want. But I highly recommend running a timer so you know how much time you have left. So I bring an arm board for my phone. I've got all my magazines for the rifle. That all goes in the top lid. Because it's relatively small. I've got my actual regular arm board. This version, I can put multiple note cards in. I have space for up to 3 visible spots. So I can run my daughter's dope on one, my dope on another, and then have white space where I can write if needed. But typically, I don't even reference this. This is a backup. I also think redundancies are a good thing to have. I personally am relying pretty heavily on electronics. Electronics can go down. You can run out of battery, whatever. And, having a redundant system, I should be all right. Then I also bring my Wheeler fat sticks. If I need to, make any adjustments to things, I've got the tools necessary to do so. Or if one of my squad mates or something needs that stuff, I can lend it out. I've got a lens pen. I've got a lens blower in there. I've got my leg extensions for my bipod. And I think that's about it. But that's the stuff that I keep in my pack. Only the stuff that stays in there during a stage might be 1 magazine or my daughter's magazines. The other 2 magazines, I'm going to have one with the rifle and one in a pocket or on my mag holder there on the belt loop or belt strap of my pack. So that's kind of how that would be filled if I was using it actually in the stage. And then within the main compartment, one thing I really like about this pack is how you have access to the main compartment. So you can lay it down on its back, and then you've got this flap here that you can just pull on and it'll open up, or you can unzip both sides. And within the main pack, you got a pretty generous space. There's not really any dividers. You can, if you were using this as a hunting pack, you can divide your stuff up in individual bags and things like that to keep things organized and what have you. But within the main compartment, I keep my ammo for the day for both me and my daughter. So I've got my MTM case guards that fit the 6.5 PRC. I'll bring 100 rounds for the match for a day. And then I've got 2 for my daughter. the 308 based ones, because she's going to be shooting 243 Winchester. Then on my way to the match, I would have my binoculars. Obviously during the match, I'm going to be wearing those. So during a stage, those aren't going to be in there. Then I have a separate game changer. If I needed a higher, bigger game changer or needed to utilize something, I've got an extra one, or if I lose one or tear one or something, I've got an extra one. And then I have a pump pillow. The pump pillow's in there mainly to give the pack a good square bottom and some shape, so that the pack can stand up if needed. And then underneath that, I usually take my rain gear just in case. I look at the forecast. If I know it's not going to rain, I'll leave that at home and not carry the weight. But underneath that, that's where I'd keep that. There is a zippered pocket here. You can put some loose items, car keys or wallet or whatever, stuff you might want to keep organized. And then on the front side here, I have my little homemade tack table. It's literally a cheap cutting board that I think I bought from Walmart. Maybe it was Amazon, I can't remember. And then an Arca plate that I got from Amazon. I just drilled it, got some flush screws that I could screw into that, kind of countersunk them a little bit. And, for all in about 20 bucks, I've got a usable tack table that I can, throw a game changer on and glass from, shoot from if needed. But personally, I don't really utilize the tack table. Some people really like it for the sport. I personally go right into my Arca mount with my rifle and stuff, as opposed to utilizing the tack table. So I'm going to put the stuff back in here that would be in the pack during a stage, and then I'll show you how I utilize my pack for the stage. So give me a second and I'll pack that back up and I'll be right back with you. Alright, so this is how my pack would be configured during a stage. This has all the gear in it that wouldn't be on my person or be out of my pack, being utilized in other ways. Like I said, the exterior of the pack is going to be the most vital and the stuff that you're going to use the most. You don't have to go out and buy a brand new pack. Any backpack, with some exceptions, should kind of work. You're going to want some stuff that maybe has some molly webbing on it so that you can attach different things to the outside. But you don't need to rush out and invest in a several $100 pack or anything like that to be able to shoot the sport. If you've got a tactical-ish backpack that has some molly webbing and ways to attach gear to the outside, by all means use it, run it, and it shouldn't probably hold you back too much. But the stuff on the outside is the stuff I use. So this is a Armageddon Gear Schmedium game changer with the medium fill. I've got a dump pouch for all my spent brass. Aids in quick cleanup and getting the next shooter on the line, so I'm not holding people up, or I'm not having to spend time putting those spent cases into my cartridge holder. I can just dump them right into my dump pouch and go about my way. And then this piece of gear I think is one of the most valuable. It's all it is a cheap little clipboard and a half sheet of white paper that I've laminated. I've got a grease pencil tied to it, and then it's clipped to the lid of my pack. What I use that for is I write down all my dope, all my pre-stage information, all that stuff goes on that. I prefer that over the arm board. Like I said, I've got that arm board there for redundancy if I need to. I can reference that, I can utilize that, but I much prefer this clipboard because So when you come up to a stage and you're in the holding area, because every stage is blind, you don't know anything about the stage other than what's on the sheet inside of the holding area. And that type of information is going to be the shape of a target, if it's marked by anything in particular to note, like a decoy or whatever, or if it's, you know, the actual target is an animal silhouette, that information will be there, as well as the order of engagement of the targets. If it's going to be 4 positions marked by orange paint, or if it's one position that you have to shoot the targets left to right or right to left or near to far or whatever it is, that information is going to be in that holding area. All of that information goes on my clipboard here. So at the top I would write, let's say it's a 4 target stage and I need to engage them left to right. I'm going to write L with an arrow to R up at the top, so I know I need to shoot my targets left to right. Then I'm going to put each target, and if it's a square, I'll just draw a square. If it's a circle, I'll draw a circle. If it's a diamond, a diamond. If it's an animal, I'll write what the animal is. If it's a coyote, I'll put C-O-Y, coy. You know, or, you know, if it's a buck, I'll put a buck. If it's a doe, I'll put a doe. You know, and then I've got that information. If it's a square marked by a turkey decoy, I'll put a, you know, either draw a symbol of a turkey or just put, you know, decoy or turkey or whatever, along with the actual shape of the steel target that I'm actually shooting. And the reasons I prefer to do it that way versus writing that information on my arm board or trying to remember it is you've got a lot of stuff going on mentally, and you may not always have to reference it. You may be able to remember it on the fly, but if you do get messed up and you do get switched around, you've got some hard data that you can come back to and reference if needed. And then you can access it, I think, quicker, and it's easier to read. You can write faster when you're utilizing it on the clock, because you have more real estate. If I'm trying to write on my small arm board, I've only got, you know, maybe a note card's worth of space that I can write on to be able to reference back to. You know, if I got my arm board and I've got all my distances and stuff with that, you know, corresponding dope, you know, I might circle it and put a 1 above it, you know, so that I know that's for target 1, and then target 2 I'll circle, put a 2. But I don't have any information, you know, to reference while I'm scanning looking for my targets. I might only have my mental capacity, and that could fail me sometimes. So having that to reference, I think, is a really good thing. And so on the clock, what I'll do is, you know, I'll get my information from my range finding binoculars, and I'll write that down so that I can reference that dope. I don't worry about taking this off of my pack for the most part unless I'm standing. Then I take it off my pack and clip it to my clipboard. Or not my clipboard, my tripod rather, sorry. And then I won't have to go down to my pack to write stuff down. It'll be right there on my tripod, and I'll be good to go. But that's how I utilize that, and that's one of the things that I think if you're new to the sport, I'd think about utilizing a system like that. I think it's a little bit easier. It helps you on the mental side of things. I think it gives you that fail-safe that you can go back and reference. And then, you know, I'll write my dope on there as I get it when I find the targets. And my pack should be right there. If it's a 1-position stage, it'll be laying right there. I can reference it. I don't have to take it off my pack. And I think it's pretty fast, because I think buying yourself some of that time can be very valuable, and it could be the difference between, you know, shooting that last target and timing out. And then another piece of kit that I think is pretty valuable, not necessary, but pretty darn valuable, is a tripod. A tripod that you can shoot off of glass off of, all of the above. You could get away with, some shooting sticks or, a triple pole bipod in a lot of cases. But that tripod, I think, is also very valuable. And it's something that I use a lot. How I am going to try securing it here, I still need to do some practice and, some honing of this system. But last year I just collapsed my legs, used these straps on the side of my pack, and held my tripod in that way. This year I think I'm going to utilize, a scabbard type, system. And so I've just got a cardboard poster tube that I had laying around that I cut to length. And it's the right size to fit a leg down in. Now I will be attaching it to this MOLLE webbing here so that as you pull it out, the tube does not come with it, and it can just stay right there. The reasons that I thought this might be faster, like I said, I'm just trying it out right now. I don't know if that's ultimately the way I'll go. But I think as I'm sliding that pack off, I can grab my tripod, let gravity take the pack away from my tripod, and then, just have my tripod in my hand ready to go in the event that I'm going to utilize that for the stage. And then, like I just illustrated there, for cleaning up my stuff and getting on to the next stage, I think being able to just slide that leg down in there is going to be a lot faster than having to monkey around with those straps, loosen them up, tighten them up to get my tripod on there. So that's kind of how I utilize the exterior of my pack. Like I said, that's the type of stuff that I'm going to utilize on most stages. Oh, and then one other feature of the actual pack that I like, that helps sell me on the pack itself, is there is an aluminum frame. So this yellow tubing, I don't know if you can see it on camera, but this yellow tubing is an aluminum frame, and that's going to give me nice rigidity if I need to utilize my pack for glassing or shooting off of. A match director can stipulate that you can't use your tripod or bipod on this stage. You have to utilize your pack for your rest to shoot off of. So if you need to have some elevation and you can't shoot off of the pack laying down on its side, laying prone, and you got to do a compressed kneeling or something, I can shoot off at the top of that, and I've got a nice solid rest with that frame. I don't have a bunch of give in it, and it's going to stay that height, and for me it's a pretty comfortable height to shoot in a compressed kneeling position. If I'm not going to utilize my tripod to shoot off of, I still utilize my tripod in its collapsed state like this. What I'll do is I'll take my game changer, throw it on there, and then just use it within the pack and glass off the top of that, because for me that would be utilized in a stage where I'm going to shoot prone, but that allows me good range of motion. It's a lot more comfortable for me than laying down prone next to my rifle, getting my binoculars out and trying to glass with my head kicked back and things. Being kneeling like that, I'm able to have a lot more dexterity and things when I am actually glassing. So I think that's one way that I utilize that stuff, so that I can glass from my pack without spending the time of deploying my tripod, because those are the types of things that I think you should think about ahead of time, practice ahead of time. It doesn't cost you anything to dry fire it in your basement and just practice deploying your gear, getting on your glass. Time yourself doing that. Ideally, under 30 seconds, I would say. If you're going to deploy your tripod, I would say 30 seconds and under should be your goal. If you're not going to deploy your tripod, I would say, 15 to 20 seconds should be your goal to get situated and get on your binoculars and start looking for those targets. I've seen plenty of people waste a minute of their time, just getting their tripod out because, just how they were storing it. Last year I was following a competitor along all day. It was his first competition ever. And I could tell that he just hadn't given much thought as to how he was going to execute this stuff. He just knew what he had to get accomplished, and he was just, going through, what is the most apparent, I would say, way to do it. And the way that, he had a scabbard for his tripod, and the way that it was designed was to have all three legs in the in the scabbard. And I was watching him because it was attached to the molly on the side of his pack. I was watching him pull on that, and it would flex, because it wasn't very rigid, and it'd bind up, and he was fighting that just to try to get his tripod out. And I finally said, why are you putting all three legs in it? And he's like, well, and he thought about it. He's like, why am I doing that? Because it's secure enough for my, 10, 15 yard little jog to the sighting pin to just put one or two legs in there. And then I don't have all this mass in there. And then I can just grab it and pull it right out. And that was a lot, easier for him. He wasn't cursing that and fighting that and, wasting a bunch of time, just mishandling his gear. And it just took, an outside vantage point of that to see something for me that was obvious. But to him, in the heat of the moment, he's not analyzing that stuff. He's not able to see that's costing him that much time. So, those are the types of things that you could try and learn beforehand, and it doesn't cost you a single penny to go down in your basement or wherever and try different things out and see what's comfortable, see what works for you. So next I'm going to show you how I deploy my tripod and a few tips and tricks as to how I break down a stage. So, all right, so this is how I would deploy my tripod. The reasons I would deploy my tripod is there's vegetation or things or trees or whatever obscuring your view pretty much directly in front of you. The match director did that intentionally so that you had to get elevation to be able to see the targets, range the targets, and shoot the targets. So another thing to think about is how would you go about deploying your tripod? For me, what I've come up with and what I thought about, I've watched a lot of people, and a lot of guys, they'll start with their uppermost leg extension when they go to deploy their tripod. The reason I don't do that is because, say, it's your first leg extension, the odds are you're going to fully extend that. Then if you need to adjust it, if you need to add any sort of elevation to it, the part that's going to have any available elevation to be adjusted is going to be all the way down at the ground. You're going to have to bend over, grab that. You're not going to know if it's high enough or if it's the right height. And then on top of that is the pieces that you're working on are continually moving. Versus if you start with the lowermost leg extension, pull that to its full extent, lock it up. All the stuff that you're working on is staying in one place. For me and my height, I'm about 5'11". I leave my ball head on. Some people choose to take their ball head off and just use the top triangle portion of their tripod as a rest for a game changer that they throw on there, and they glass from that, they shoot from that. Personally, I like the added 3-4 inches that I get there. And like I said, I prefer to shoot from my rifle in the actual arc of ball head here it adds quite a bit of stability for me, and I prefer that. Try both ways. You might find you like something different. And based on your height and the way your leg extensions go, it might not be, advantageous to do that. But for me, for a standing position, it's going to be 2 full leg extensions for me, and that works out pretty darn well. So I don't need to be worried about looking for a line that I've written in silver Sharpie that shows that's my standing position or kneeling or anything like that. I can just put it to the max. I don't have to think about it, and go from there. So then I've got my ball head here. I typically run it pretty stiff, and then I have my pan adjusted so that I can pan using that, and my elevation is going to be then in the ball head. If I do have a downward slope, I'll think about that as I'm coming up to the stage, and the leg that's pointed away from me, I might go into that 3rd leg extension and add a little bit to it so that the top of my tripod can be somewhat level. But those are things that you can look at and evaluate on the stage as you come up to it. So as you're coming up to that stage, you're going to have a start position. You're going to come out of the holding area. You're going to go to the starting position. The RO is going to meet you there, and he's going to give you some commands. Make ready. But our rifles are fully unloaded, chamber flag in, everything. You can't take that chamber flag in until you're ready to start engaging targets. So the make ready is more just, get your stopwatch ready, those types of things. And he's going to give you that engage. From that start position, you're going to have to travel at a certain distance. It might be 10 feet, it might be 20 yards, 30 yards, 40 yards, something like that, to get from the start position to what's called the sighting pin. The sighting pin is a point marked by either a stake or paint on the ground or whatever the match director decides, given the terrain or whatever, and the features that are there. And that's where you can see and range and engage all the targets, right? So from that position, you can see all the targets that are on that stage. You can range them, and then if that's the one shooting position, that's where you're going to shoot from as well. If it's a multi-position stage, you're going to range and find your target from that position, but then you're going to shoot from potentially other positions. So then you're standing at the sighting pin. For me, I like to put my tripod directly over top of that, and then I'm situated where I can see and shoot everything that I need to. Then I'm going to take my game changer. I'm going to throw that on my ball head, and that gets me to a height that is just about clavicle high, collarbone high, and that's going to put me in a pretty natural, comfortable position that I can both shoot and glass run. So then I'm going to get my binoculars out of my chest pack, and they're going to go on top of my game changer. I wouldn't recommend freehanding and scanning that way, because the targets are going to be relatively obscure, and if you're wobbling and bouncing up and down, it's going to probably be kind of hard to spot those. When it comes to glassing, I would try to get in the match director's head and also think kind of hunting related. Where would an animal be? If the simulated scenario is a mule deer hunt or something like that, you're going to be looking in places where they potentially bed, probably. Things like that. Try to think logically, and that can narrow down and hone in on spots of the range where you might want to spend a little bit more time combing that area to try and find that target. But that's how I'm going to set up, and then I'm going to get down in my glass like that, bend at the waist, and I'm going to be nice and comfortable, nice and stable. I utilize the Vortex Fury HD 5000 ABs. They're a range finding binocular that also has the applied ballistic software in there. So when I range that target, I get the range, and I also get a data correction, or dope correction rather, for my rifle. I can have up to 3 profiles saved within the rifle. So both me and Annika can, I just have to change the setting to get the correct dope pulled up. So that's something I'll have to mentally keep track of to make sure that I've changed back and forth. But that's something for me to navigate. Most people won't need to navigate. You can utilize, a traditional set of binoculars and then a handheld rangefinder, but that's going to cost you some time. One piece of gear that I think is very valuable, that's going to literally buy you hits, is having this, because you're going to buy time not switching back and forth to get that range to it. And if you have something like the ABs, it's going to also give you your accurate dope correction. You're not going to have to be, okay, my dope card is in 50-yard increments, let's say. I'm not going to have to guess, well, should that be 2 tenths or should that be 3 tenths, when I'm in between that 50-yard increment. More times than not, that's accurate enough. But if you're not exactly stable, it might not buy you the fudge factor to get that hit. Where this, it's got internal environmental sensors, so I'm getting real-time environmentals, and it's adjusting for that. I can input wind values and things, so it should be pretty accurate. In my use of it, it has been accurate. But if you don't have that and you don't have the funds to be able to allocate to that, you can utilize your traditional binocular rangefinder setup, or you can utilize the loaner program through NRL Hunter. So hit Travis up, and if you need a set of rangefinding binoculars, there's going to be Sig Sauer rangefinding binoculars that you can use. Sig, being the title sponsor of the series, has graciously given some of those range-finding binoculars so that competitors can use them before they buy them, and then they're not hindered in finishing dead last or not finding any targets or ranging any targets because they're handicapped by their gear. Same thing with a tripod. If this tripod is not cheap. I think it's like $900 with the ball head and everything. If you don't have that kind of money to be able to dedicate to a heavy-duty tripod like this, there's tripods available through the NRL loaner program. I can't remember exactly what company it is that donated those. It might be 2 Vets, but there's a tripod available. If you need a rifle, you can get the SIG rifle as well as ammunition, and you can get fully kitted. So don't let the gear aspect of the match stop you from competing. So that's all with the gear. I'm now going to talk to you about how I break down a stage, right? So you came up to that sighting pin. Let's say, for example, this stage is a 4-target stage shot from one position, and you're going to engage those targets left to right. From that sighting pin, you're going to look out and you're going to see 2 stakes in the ground, 2 paint marks, whatever the match director has utilized for the match. It should be pretty consistent. But depending on the landscape of whether or not they can put stakes in the ground or something like that, there might be a flag in the tree or something. But there's going to be a left stake and a right stake, right? And those are the limit markers. So you're going to have a left limit and a right limit. If it's a left to right stage, they might be relatively wide. excuse me, if it's a near to far stage or far to near or whatever, those stakes might be a little bit more narrow. Depends on the topography of the range, you know, a lot of different things as to what the and where the other stages are. You know, they aren't going to want you potentially flagging your fellow competitors, you know, safety, all those types of things go into consideration. But so you have those limit markers. It's a 4-target stage shot from one position, and all we know is that there are 4 steel square targets that we have to engage. That's all the information the match director gave us, and that's it. My personal experience has been at the Caldwell Little Hunt on the Prairie. At that match, Jim, the match director, essentially says, I'm going to give you at least 1 target on every stage. And how he does that is there's a placard with the stage number that you're on, and then from that placard, within about 20 yards, one of the targets is going to be. So you should be able to find that one and locate it pretty easy. All right, so you've got your left to right stage. You get your stuff deployed, you get on glass, and you see that number placard out there. It's stage 7. You see the 7, you look through your glass, confirm, yep. Now you're looking around that and you find that first target, right? So you range that, you write down your range, you circle it on your arm board, whatever you do to collect that data so that you can reference it back. And then you start looking for target number 2. For me, on a left to right stage, I scan that vertically from left to right, right? So I find that first target, no problem, because it's marked by that placard. From there on, I don't have any indicators as to where that target's going to be located other than potentially my own intuition, and then just looking through my binoculars and finding it. So I'm scanning that vertically up and down from left to right. I go through that and I find another square target. I range that. For me, in my ABs, there's enough of a delay in there that I get my range, and while I'm waiting for that dope to come up, I ask my RO a question, right? Because per the rules, you can talk to your RO and you can ask them yes or no questions. So what I want to learn is the target that I just found, what target number is that? Because that's going to dictate what order I need to shoot that in. Because if I shoot the next target, after finding that first one, I knew that was the first one because it was right by the number placard. And then I go to the next one and I found another target, and it's a square target, and I know it's part of my stage, but I don't know if that was target 2, I don't know if that was target 3, or I don't know if that's target 4. If it was all the way to the right edge of my limits, then I'm probably pretty confident it's target number 4, but I need to confirm that. So I would ask the RO, is target number 2, and I would give him the distance that I just got, and then I would also give him another, geographical or landscape feature that would denote where that target is located on the range. Because in a left to right target scenario, there could be 2 targets that are relatively the same distance, and based on how steady I was, or I might have hit the target, I might have hit the hill behind it, I could be off by plus or minus 20 yards. And so the range itself isn't enough to get 100% accurate answer. So I'll pick out a geographical feature. Is it 467 yards to the left of the trunk of a cedar tree, or pine tree, or whatever, whatever description you can give that's relatively concise and relatively descriptive enough that they can give you an accurate answer to that question. So let's say he says no. All right, so that means you've probably found target 3 or target 4. So then I would just rephrase that. Is that target number 3? He'll say yes to that. All right, what does that tell you? It tells you you found target 1 and target 3. It's a left to right stage. You know the only wedge that target 2 can be within is from target 1 to target 3. I don't have to worry about the space that's to the left of target 1. I don't have to worry about the space that's to the right of target 3 to find target number 2. So then I'll go back and I'll work that piece of the pie again, looking for target number 2. Hopefully I've found it on that second scan. If I didn't find it on that second scan, I'm going to skip it, try to go find target number 4. Target number 4 is going to be right of target number 3 and in between that limit state. So that's the only piece of pie that I'm going to worry about there. And I'll scan that vertically. Hopefully I come across that. I know that's going to be target number 4 because there's nothing in between there. So I don't need to reference or ask the RO a question there to figure out what target I'm looking at. But I may utilize the RO to see, maybe I forgot to start my stopwatch or something at that point, or I'm not running a stopwatch. At that point, I'd probably ask the RO, how much time do I have remaining? A lot of cases they can answer that question, and they'll tell you, okay, you have 2 minutes remaining. For me personally, I set my cutoff at 90 seconds remaining. That's where I'm going to put my binoculars away. I'm going to get my rifle loaded up, and I'm going to start engaging whatever targets I've found. If that means I haven't found target number 2, so be it. I'm going to shoot targets 1, 3, and 4 and hopefully get 6 points. If I spend all my time looking for targets and not shooting a single one, that's the easiest way to guarantee you'll get a 0. So in that event that I skip that target, I'm going to shoot target number 1. I get a first round impact. Great, I got 2 points. What I now need to communicate to the RO is that I am skipping target number 2. Because if I don't communicate to my RO, he's going to pan to target number 2 where he knows it is. He's going to be locked on it. I'm going to shoot another target. And I might hear the report. I hear the ding. I watch it in my scope. I know I hit it. No call from the RO. Says re-engage. All right, so you send another one. Ding, you hit it. And you're wondering what the heck? Well, you just fired 2 hits onto target number 3. So that's why you need to confirm what target you're on. And then you'd also, in that event, tell the RO, I'm skipping target 2. And then he'll say, all right, on to target 3. And then you can engage target 3. You get that first round impact. You got 4 points now. Then you go to target 4, and you get that. So utilizing your time wisely. Also thinking about how to break down that so you're not scanning the entire usable area every single time, looking when your target can only be in this little area. It narrows things down, and you don't have to cover as much ground. And then thinking logically, if you're looking up a little valley or a little waterway, and there's topography and stuff, and there's trees and stuff, odds are, and it's a near to far stage or something, odds are those targets are going to run up that creek, right? So that's where I'm going to probably spend most of my time glassing. If I don't see things that are relatively obvious there, then yeah, I'm going to widen my width, but out to the limit stakes. So those are the types of things I would consider on a near to far or far to near stage. Like I said, those limit markers are probably going to be a touch more narrow because you're not spanning as wide of an area. And for me, I'm going to break those down and scan those left and right versus vertically. I'm going to scan horizontally, and then when I find those targets, I'm going to know a distance band that a target could be in. If I've found multiple targets, I know, target 2 can't be, if it's a near to far stage, target 2 can't be any closer than target 1 was, and it can't be any further than target 3 is. So it has to be somewhere in there. So just, keeping that in your mind, and that's where, maybe you forget because you got a lot of stress, you got a lot of stuff going on. You can look back at if you're using a clipboard like I am, you can look back because you have that written down in it. Yep, it's left to right. Good. All right, now I know what I'm looking for, where I should be looking, and spending my time. So that's kind of how I break down NRL Hunter stages. That's how I think about it. I hope that's valuable to you. If you've never shot a match, I highly encourage you to get out and try it. Don't be intimidated by the gear. There's a loaner program. If you get on the Facebook group, there's a lot of people. Us competitors, we buy gear left and right. If you're out there and you're going to go shoot that match and you're on the forum, on the Facebook group, whatever, and ask if somebody, if all the loaner gear is already, claimed, put it out there. Ask if somebody's got an extra tripod that you can borrow, extra whatever. If you're short on a piece of gear, and I'm pretty sure you'll be able to solve that problem relatively easy. Whether it's I shoot NRL Hunter and my buddy only shoots PRS, but he's got a tripod, I can hit him up and say, hey, this guy's new to competition and he's going to be shooting the NRL Hunter and he doesn't have a suitable tripod. Could he borrow yours? I bet I could find somebody pretty easy that would say yes to that. So don't let the gear portion of it scare you. Use what you've got. Skills is a great place to start, but if you've got a rifle that fits the other divisions, like if you've got a 6.5 Creedmoor just sitting in the cabinet that's a lightweight hunting rifle, put a scope that you can reliably dial elevation for, and it's got a usable reticle for windage holds and things. Put that on there, bring it out, slap a bipod on it, and come shoot. You're not going to really be held back, and pay the extra $100 for that match fee because you're going to get a prize off the prize table that's well over $100. I can almost guarantee it. And it's likely going to be a piece of gear that you need to continue to compete. So if you've got questions, concerns, hit me up in the comments. Like, subscribe. We're going to be putting match content together here real soon. Turkey season's right around the corner. Outdoor cooking, all the good stuff that I like to do is going to be coming at you. If you want to sign on for that, I'd be really happy. You can find me at Read All About It Media on all your social medias, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. I'm going to be on Rumble and YouTube, so hit both of those up if you could, because we all know that YouTube algorithms don't typically favor this kind of content, but we're going to put it in both spots so that we can hopefully reach a lot of different people. With that, I'm going to sign off, and we'll see you on the next one.